guys, welcome to my channel. Today I wanted to make a video about is it a narcissist or is it not? Because I think a lot of people, like, part of the connection with the narcissist is to create confusion and chaos. That is part of their job. That is what they're looking to do. Why? Because when you start to grow and elevate and become more independent and want better things for you, they don't like that movement. They have like a herd mentality, and what they are is they enjoy having people around them. They can't be by themselves. They're very codependent, and they're always needing supply, right? So that's supply being people who give them attention, look up to them, make them feel like they're elevated when they're not. You know what I mean? This is kind of like people who surround themselves with yes men or similar toxic mentalities and things like that. And so you could have started out, like, for me, some people talk about, oh, the narcissist and my experience with the narcissist. But for me, I've experienced, if there's one, there's some. And I just did a video about narcissists and enablers and how dangerous the two of them can be together. And so what I recognized was, like, when I was younger, I noticed, like, my dad, and I didn't have the word narcissist. I just knew he was toxic and he was disruptive emotionally, like a hurricane. He was is all about him often, like all the conversations always ended up back on him. He would interrupt, when we would drive home all together as a family from work and stuff, he would talk, but then, like, when it was my mom's turn to talk, like he would look out the window or just, like, not even respond. It was almost like she wasn't talking because it wasn't about him, right? And so he was my first, and I have to be honest, I haven't researched all the different types of narcissists, because, to be honest, there's more and more and more and more, and then even more. And so to me, I don't really like labels. I like to simplify things because it's easier to remember, so I like to recognize, like I said, safe and unsafe people. And so by doing that, I don't need to label them a narcissist. For me, a narcissist is someone who is entitled and immature and lazy, and they want everyone else to manage the work for them, but they get all the rewards. That's super immature. And even when you think about, like, toddlers and stuff, like, we'll consider toddlers are underdeveloped and not grown. Like, there are toddlers that are more like intelligent emotionally and mentally than some of these individuals that just they think that you're just there to pick up after them, like you're just here to, like, tolerate their bad behavior, and that they're just this way. I'm just this way. That's what you're gonna hear. This is just me. They don't think they have to change, and what they don't understand is, like, you're not asking them to change who they are. It's how they treat people, and how they show up. Like, you know what? Be honest. If you're looking and you don't like to cook and you don't like to clean, let me know. And don't make excuses. Don't play, like, what drives me nuts with the narcissists are, like, they play those like they're mentally ill, and they take that card from other people and they apply it like a costume. And that's the problem with some of these spaces, because they're really messing up, like, the care that people need, the actual people that have these mental issues, and not issues, but, like, illnesses, we'll call it. I've struggled with this, and they'll pretend like, I'm just, I'm so depressed so I can't help clean the house. But they're not depressed, and they can still go out and they can still do these things, and they're still, like, not to say that you can't still go out in depression, but for me, when I experienced depression, I wasn't going out. I wasn't partying. I wasn't doing those things. So not to say, like, I think there is a form of depression where you can still go to work, you can still, like, show up to certain things, but I just know when I was depressed, I didn't want to be around people. I was exhausted. People were exhausting for me. So, like, it's kind of a, I don't know if that, like I said, another label that might be misapplied. Excuse me. So I had my dad, and he was, like, a very meat and potatoes, but he was my way or the highway. Like, he used to bang his fist on the table. I'm like, we're all sitting here. What is the need for that? He's very intimidating. He really was my way or the highway. He used to rule out of fear. Those parents that used to rule out of fear. I still see comments where people are like, yeah, I did that too to my kid. And I'm like, you're like 50 right now. You should be acknowledging where that was wrong. And you didn't need to parent. Like, so when I see people that are still, like, I'm 46, I'm going to be 47 this year. And I can recognize where I picked up some of my parents' traits of parenting that were unhealthy, because that's just normal. That's what your norm is. So it makes sense that you would pick up those things. And so it's a blind spot for you because that's how it worked in your house, right? And so when I started to recognize that the way I was parenting was so unhealthy, and when I was an emotionally unhinged because of the reactive abuse that I was experiencing, like that was just as damaging as like my dad's fear of tornado and hurricane, sort of like, getting loud and intimidating in order to get us to fall in line, and like, we're seen and not heard. And our emotions, we're not allowed to show those. Like, we're not allowed because it makes my dad very uncomfortable. But his emotions are fucking, like, there's no room in the house for our emotions because his emotions are in every corner of that house, right? And you feel it because you're walking on eggshells. You can't exhale. And I think that's also what I'm going to do is a video about addictions. And I definitely feel like that smoking addiction is a side effect of walking on eggshells and not being able to like exhale. Like there's always somebody watching you and like picking at you. I often wonder if that's what that is from, because I remember when I started smoking in high school, and it was just a form, I don't know, I wanted to fit in, but it feels like I remember at that time, I just felt so uncomfortable with everybody, and it felt like that was the only outlet at the time. I could be wrong. It's just, I like to think about some of these things, like if this is the cause of why we do that. So then so growing up in a household with a volcano, like that kind of a father who was like, and then we would get the belt at times. He really ruled with fear, because he was a lot bigger than us. And that only lasts for so long, because now I don't talk to him because I don't have to. And now I don't have to answer the door if he shows up. Like, I don't want you on my property. I don't have to anymore. You're not my boss, And so when you grow up with someone like that, and the environment was so cold and cruel in that house, and like uncherished and unnurturing, that you crave. So that's the addiction of the empathic individual. Is your addiction is attention, and it mirrors the narcissist, because they want attention, but they have so much of it. They have to take all the attention, which is such an odd thing, and you're left with nothing, right? And so when that happens, when you get out into the real world and you're finally like able to stretch your wings and do your own thing, and you start recognizing some of these toxic traits you have and some of the people around you like that. So then before that you recognize that, you meet the covert narcissist, and that's the one who is super charming, super friendly. He's the nice guy. All the girls like him because he seems emotionally available, but he's not. He's manipulative. He's emotionally manipulative. And what he does is he chooses to have all these women around him because they're used to triangulate you and make you feel jealous. And he's going to give attention to all these other women over you, And I didn't realize that at first, but because he seemed softer, he was charming, he was friendly, he got past my guard, because I recognized meat and potatoes, rules and fear, tornado, hurricane, like aggressive, bully. I recognize that. So like I could see that, but the blind spot was, this covert narcissist was who my father was in front of other people. Because I remember seeing him at the grocery store. He would go out of his way to like pull strangers aside and just start random conversations. And I'm like, we're here to grocery shop. I know me as a single mom, I'm getting in and I'm getting out. Like, it's not a heyday at the grocery store. Nobody wants to hang out at the grocery store. So the fact that he would like to spend time there, he would go grocery shopping, act like it's a big chore, but he's literally just talking everyone's ear off. And I remember as I got older, I could see the people's eyes. You could see how they were, it was awkward, it was uncomfortable. And there's that time where it's fine to like, have a casual conversation in passing and be friendly. But there's a point where it passes that, and now people's eyes are glazing over and they're just trying to cinch themselves away, hoping for another person to catch his attention, right? And I reckon it's so weird, because once you get more distance from these individuals and you start recognizing the patterns in other people and in yourself, you can actually start to see that's so sad that he made so much effort to like give his time and energy to perfect strangers. And like his kids were like wanting his attention. But the kind of attention we got from him was his rage and his frustration and stress with life, and the fact that he couldn't get himself past a certain point in life. We were the frustration because like it felt like we were the cause of that. But like, life doesn't turn out a certain way. And well, don't get me wrong, like having children, it's stressful because you just don't know until you know. And especially when you don't recognize that you have certain wounds. But I don't feel like that's what this was about. I don't think, like, he doesn't think there's anything wrong with him. And he's angry at everyone else, but he's not willing to do what he needs to do to get that for himself. And so his version, and then the covert version, this would be because the kid's dad for me, that was like my dad, you know? And that's when I realized, oh, I thought I was going to do different, and I did the same. So then I met Todd, who I worked with him, but I didn't know I worked with him, and I met him online. And then I realized he's working in my depot. But other than that, I wouldn't have seen him. He wasn't on my radar. So maybe I was on his, I don't know. So he appeared like that was a Fast and Furious connection. I noticed like at that time you connect on Facebook right away, and I was seeing that he was like making these comments about some woman flirting with him, and I thought that's a weird thing to post, like putting it out there. Oh, some girl mentioned how pretty my eyes were. Like I think that's a weird thing to. Anyway, so I called him out on that, and I started noticing like he's got a lot of Facebook friends that are attractive, and I later learned like you know what, there's one thing about having female friends, like other opposite sex, but like for me, it's like to have couples, to be friends with a couple, that makes sense. But when you see a dude or a female that has only the opposite sex as friends, because I used to be like that too, because I could only get along with guys, and it's because a lot of females were, didn't. A lot of females don't want to do the work to stay in shape and stuff and put effort in. And I was putting effort into my appearance because I wanted to be healthy and it made me feel good. But they read it as like me trying to get attention from other men. And I'm like, do you know who these men are? I don't want their attention. Like, you know what I mean? So then, yeah, this Todd guy, he was probably one of the worst ones because he would play the victim. He really, he would talk about his ex making all these bad decisions, like she used to drink and party all the time, and he would have to take care of the kids. But I was watching his kids at times, and I was taking care of his kids, and he went out and partied, and he was drinking and smoking pot. Like he smokes pot every time he eats a meal, pretty much. 3 to 4 to 5 times a day, daily. And he didn't see an issue with that because pot is healthy. But his ex used to go out drinking, and that was her, toxin of choice. And what I realized after, like I said, when you spend time away from these people, you get a lot of clarity. So like when you get discarded, that's actually a bonus because like the more you can stay away from them, you get more clarity and you realize things. And he was just like her. Like the things that he's claiming, like I don't know her, so I don't know that that's her. I just know what he told me of her. And at that time, like because he was making her seem like someone she's not, like I would check in on her Facebook, and it did seem like she does like her beer, she does like to go out, she does like to do all these things, which is unfortunate because you got 2 kids here with 2 parents that are very self-absorbed, not willing to focus on the kids unless they get some sort of benefit, right? Because the one kid, they were trying to build a hockey career, and the other kid definitely fell by the wayside, and I can really relate to that. So I felt really bad for him, and I try to spend time with him, but there's only so much you can do, right? And so this guy, like, he really snagged me because he really played that softness and that charmer, and that he liked to cuddle. And I mean, my dad liked to cuddle, but it was all about him. And like when I'm telling him I don't want to cuddle anymore, like it didn't matter. It didn't matter. If dad wanted to cuddle, that's what he got. But it's like, I mean, maybe connect with your wife so she wants to cuddle you. It's just weird. Like nobody. My dad was not fun to be around. I mean, to the people that don't know him, maybe. But when you know him, there's nothing worse than like seeing that that man who like leads with fear and then having to cuddle him and having to massage his feet for 5 cents a minute or something or whatever it was. That's how he earned pocket change, was massaging his feet and cutting his toenails and brushing his hair. And at one point it was fun because like little kids like to do that, but at some point when we didn't want to do it anymore, it's like we didn't have a choice. And I dreaded that, especially as you get older and you start to see your dad for like, I still didn't see him quite clearly, but I started seeing, like, I knew I didn't like doing that. you know, I'd rather be outside playing with my friends. And it's interesting because like he wouldn't teach me how to make my own money. That's the way I had to make money, you know, like or through a garage sale. Like he never knew how to make money, even though his dad had a business. His dad had a bakery business. My dad really struggled with like his own stuff, even though he had a lot of talent. So like I can see the talents in some of these people, and that's the challenge. Like I can see the value in the narcissist when I meet them, but they're also playing a certain part. Like they can't maintain that facade, right? And so like the covert narcissists, they really play the part to get you to understand like, oh yeah, like we just can't be in a relationship. Like they, it's really interesting how there's a lot of confusion. There's a lot of reasons as to why you're not getting commitment, and there's a lot of reasons why we're not, like there are times when he did live with me, and I'm glad I kicked him out, because honestly, if I didn't, there's a good chance he could have taken half my house, and that would have really pissed me off because I already had to split the proceeds from my original house with the kid's dad, and I had to fix that up, and I earned him $20,000. Like we got 40,000 off it, but it's because I did the majority of the work, and I had to hand over $20,000 to that man for doing nothing except for hitting my car on Mother's Day and getting a restraining order. You know, he painted a couple cupboards. It's wild. So the difference, that's what I mean, is so like so it's interesting because they both have similar things, they just do it differently. So the covert narcissist is trying to have that friendly facade, and they don't want to talk about anything negative, and negative being the issues. You know, we're having issues, there's a problem here, they don't want to talk about that. So anytime you bring up, it's kind of like in my last video, like watch the neighbor, like they're fine if you're complimenting them, if you're not calling them out, if you're not holding them accountable. Like when life is fun, they're fine. But when someone has to take responsibility, accountability, you know, things need to be, the work needs to be done, like that's the problem. That's when they don't like it. When you start to call them out, like, hey, like we have to clean the house, but where are you when we're cleaning the house? I'm doing my office work. Well, can you do that later? Like, I understand that's part of your responsibility as an adult, but you messed up this house too. And so I had a lot of, my dad was very hypocritical, and so was the kid's dad, Pat, and so was Todd. They were all very, they lacked accountability, and they would make up so many excuses. And what they would do is either, they would, whenever you try to call them out on their bullshit, they like to create that chaos. And how they do that is getting loud to try to shut you down and get you small and in your head. Like maybe this isn't a big deal. Maybe I could do this. Maybe I need to do more. You know, they try to get you there. And then they'll also isolate you with, to punish you. So I remember, like the kid's dad did this, my dad did this, and Todd would do this. He would, like, they wouldn't reach out. They would ignore you. And so like even, I'd always be the fixer. So, because I was made to feel like I was the problem. So while there was an emotional reactive or action, and that was my job to maintain, like, you know, to communicate calmly, these individuals would do things to get you there. Like, it's just the abuse. Like, with the kid's dad, we made the decision of like he does dishes, I do laundry, and then we would switch it up every week, right? Because those are both pretty similar, I thought. And he would never do his job. He would leave it until the last minute, and then he would never do it. And then, you know what, he would want to watch TV, and he was tired from work, so he's like, he would get mad that I was nagging him, and then he would just be all pissed off, and then he would leave the house, and now I'm not doing it. So I'm like, what the fuck is going on here? So you're not going to do the dishes, and then I'm going to have to now, even though I've been doing the laundry, taking care of the kids, doing all that extra stuff, and now I have to do your dishes that have been sitting there. So like, now it's not like one sink, it's like a whole countertop, like that he's been just not doing. Because he'd make, well, you shouldn't have cooked this, and you shouldn't have cooked that. Well, then you shouldn't have ate it, dude. And maybe you should have made something. But there would always be an excuse. And then like same with Todd, he was so flirtatious all the time, and he was always going out to other people's parties, and he would lie about the parties that he's going to. Like he would go to bachelorette parties and say, no, there's not strippers there, there's strippers there. And I'm just like, just tell me the truth, because I don't condone that. I'm not gonna be with someone who goes to strip clubs. That's not my belief system. That's not. So like, why can't you just be honest? But they can't be honest. And so they're getting the best of both worlds. They're getting the nurturing version of you, but you're also very complacent and you're stuck. That's what they want. They want you stuck there with them because they're stuck, you know? And so, that's where it was really hard, because like it was hard to discern the two. And so this is how I decide if someone is safe or unsafe, is like, is there confusion and chaos? Because there doesn't need to be. Clarity and communication can happen in a neutral, you know, you're just asking questions, you're just getting information. So when people start to get like defensive, get loud, get insulting, that's a problem, because they're not looking for a solution. They're trying to put a block up, because here's the thing, the solution is, oh, they need to help out. That's the solution. You know, when you start bringing in clarity and common sense to a situation that is crazy and chaotic, they don't like that, because now it's like their mask is like, you know, they when they have you in confusion and chaos, they're winning, right? They're getting what they want. Like you're an option for them, and so when you want commitment and you want investment, they don't want that. They want that from you. They don't want to give it to you, right? And so when reality starts to hit, that's when they start getting shifty. So anytime I feel like this situation is needing me to pull teeth to get answers, where there's chaos and confusion, you know, I've experienced people who, you know, I've experienced a lot of men, and not just with time wasters, but with men dating online and stuff like that. Like they'll require you to put yourself in this position of rejection. Like this is men who will try to be friends with you, you know, and they have a sexual interest or like a relationship interest in you. It's usually not a relationship. They have a sexual interest in you. And so they're very immature and insecure. And so they're not going to come out and say, like, this is my intention. You know, they don't know how to ask what they want for what they want, because they're insecure. And so like, well, they'll beat around the bush. And so that feels like pulling teeth. And it's just like, why not? Like, it's a feeling of like, I feel like the person's attracted to me. I can see them looking at me. We're crossing paths a lot, but they're never ever reaching out to get to know me more. And that's the person, they don't want to risk rejection. They're trying to bring you in emotionally so that you make all the moves and you look like you want them. And so that makes them feel big, right? Like if they ask you and you deny them and they're in that possibility, that can make them feel small. It doesn't have to make them feel small. That's just how they think. And when you learn that rejection is actually a really great part of life, and that you can, you know, be okay just because you don't get your own way, and just because things don't work out for you. When things don't work out for you, that's a life lesson, that you learn how to make life work for you. But narcissistic individuals, immature people, perceive rejection as failure, and failure for me is just a revising. Like, so when I had a number of these people who, especially Todd, where he kept rejecting me, I went back to, I'm like, well, I want to be the best partner I can be. And then if he meets me there, cool. But if not, at least I'm working towards meeting my match, right? And so I just kept working on myself. Every time he rejected me, I took it, and at first I took it as I was a cool girl and I can handle that, and I can be a side, you know, I don't have to be with him. I can still give him attention. And he would talk about being like, oh, I'm one of his best friends. He has a soft spot for me. And in reality, he just was dealing with a lot of women all at the same time. And the thing is, he's so good at wearing that mask. And the thing is, they can jump from person to person to person, but they're never going to stay long term with one person, because that mask is going to fall. And so that's why they're going to be jumping, you know, leapfroggers. And when you finally see their true colors, that's what helped me. I'm going to do a video on that with the longing, because like once you see the true colors, you're like, oh. And that's when you also recognize, like, this person is unsafe, because they're willing to lie to your face. The thing is, when you see like how emotionally they play on you, they play on your emotions. They try to, so a thing that makes people unsafe for me is when I feel bad for them. So if I find myself feeling bad for somebody, that's a stop for me. Why am I feeling bad for this person? Like, why am I not feeling bad for myself? Look at all the work I'm doing, you know? And so like, when you tend to like put yourself in limerence, even this could be for limerence, when you're like, focused on someone, you maybe have a crush on them, but like you're over obsessing, and you don't really realize this, but you did this in childhood, but now you're doing it as an adult. You got to catch yourself. And because we'll make up a personality, you know, we'll make up a person. Because they're never around enough to like confirm, is that who they are? And that's a red flag right there. Like, have I had conversations with this person? No. So I don't actually know who they are. So I have to like recognize that. And so I have to keep me in check to keep me safe as well. So it's not just about safe people, it's about, am I behaving safely? Because like you have to protect yourself. Because these people, as long as you're willing to give of yourself to people, there's always going to be people that are going to take, whether it be emotionally, through material needs, your mental information, like your wisdom and knowledge, a crying shoulder to lean on. Like this is all energetic exchanges, like financially, even giving financially sometimes, like donating and volunteering. I'm very selective with where I give my money because I don't think that it always gets there. And the problem I also find is like it's hard to know who, like if the people in line are getting, like the people that need it versus the people who don't want to do anything to improve their life. There's two different groups. There's people who like at the hands of the abuser and they're needing to rebuild, and then there's the abusers that become homeless because they never chose to invest and work on anything, right? And so you got to think like these are all avenues of energy that you give out. And that's why you're so tired, because like you're just giving of yourself all the time. That's how you were developed. That's how you were raised. And so that's where I also look at, is this safe or unsafe? Does this person require something from me that I'm not okay to give? So like the neighbor, like doesn't want to take care of her stuff, but she'll come over here and then she'll try to give me a sob story about how stressed she is, but she's in my face, aggressive. So she's unloading her emotions. She's crying on my shoulder in a way. And then she's also expecting me to tolerate her bad behavior and her lack of accountability and responsibilities. That's a lot going on there. That's not my job. That's not my job. So like that's where I'm like, I mean, in my last video I said that's already a closed door, but that's something I should have done sooner. And you just get better at it. You just learn and get better at it and practice it. The more you practice it, the more you'll get better, and you'll recognize, well, I should have done that sooner. Like I said, like it's in the action that you learn these things. So if you're not taking action, you're not practicing, you're never gonna know like how to work these things. So like that's the thing too, with safe and unsafe. Somebody can seem like they have good intentions, but good intentions don't equal results and action. So what that means is like somebody can come off as like, oh, I want to help you, but some people want to help you because they want to get something. But there's also people who want to help because they want to be perceived a certain way. And there's also people who will play very like they're meek and they're just trying to get close to you. So that's where it seems like they have good intentions. It's like when someone wants to give for you, but their situation is not stable. That's a concern for me. Like, because I've learned that I can't give from an empty cup. And so it's weird when people who I can see, you have an empty cup. Why are you offering something to me? That's an unsafe quality, because for me, I've recognized like, I need to fill my cup first and get to a stable place before I can really help other people. And so when people are giving from such an empty cup, that's like a wounded bird. That's like a wounded bird energy. And it's almost like they're hoping to give, because I used to be there. And so I would give because I wanted to receive that from other people. It'd be nice, like I love the idea of like bringing flowers to people, and I like baking and cooking for other people. I love doing all those things, but I was doing them because I was really hoping that, it'd be nice to get that in return as well, which is fair. That's fair. But when you lead with giving and helping other people and wanting to like help them heal and like give them an example of like, hey, you just need to do this. When you force that upon someone, what you end up is getting the wild feral animal who is like gonna lash back at you. It's like trying to bring a feral cat inside. The cat doesn't want to be domesticated. The cat doesn't want to be domesticated. It likes living in the wild. They like that. They like survival mode. And so that's where the people, like these people want to, like I had a lady who I was going into Tim Hortons the other day, and I was making a left-hand turn, and she was ready to turn right in there. It was her go. And so she's sitting there with her blinker on, and she's like, go, go. Like I don't know how to make a left turn for myself. So that shows me left-hand turns make her feel anxious, and so she thinks I'm anxious, so she's trying to help me by allowing me to go before her. But what she's doing is she's creating some chaos and confusion because it's her turn. And I can handle a left turn, so I'm fine. She's not fine. I'm fine. And so what she doesn't see is she's waving me on, and there's a car coming up behind her because she's stopped when she should have been turning. And now that white car is going to pass when she wants me to make a left-hand turn. So she's trying to give me guidance, and it's bad advice. That's unsafe. So while she may have had good intentions, I want to let you go first because you look like you're in a struggling position. Like, lady, you got to take care of yourself right now. And you almost directed me into an accident. So I probably don't want to take advice from that person. And that's where I also deem safe and unsafe. Like, are you taking, and this is where it can be challenging because I'm doing a video about assumptions and I'll clear it up more there. But like, it can be challenging because like, I used to look up to people. And I realized when I was looking up to people, I was looking down on myself. And while yes, we're all like learning and growing and maturing, the people I was around were quite low in vibration and even skill set. The thing was, I thought they were elevated, but it's only because they had been using other people to get where they got. And so I'm looking up to them like, well, you seem successful, so you must know something I don't. And that wasn't the case. They just used other people and their costumes to get to where they got, right? And so that was recognizing who to look up to and who not to. And then I realized like I was surrounded by a bunch of people who I'm like, oh, you guys are really successful and really good people, but they really weren't. And so like I've pretty much disconnected from everyone from my past. And while there's no like harsh feelings there, there's just a recognition of like, it was an acquaintance. There was never a real friendship there, right? And it's just like, how some people just network and they just attach to each other because it's numbers. I know that's filler for me. I'm going to be more intentional. Excuse me. And like I said, it doesn't have to mean there's hurt feelings. It's just, I'm not wasting my energy on people who just consider me an acquaintance. And it makes sense that I wouldn't do the same. And so intentions are important, but you got to look at if they're safe, right? Like when people are trying to help out, when they can even help themselves, that's a problem. Like I had a person who he's like, hey, I can help you fix that stuff, right? I'm like, dude, like you got to fix your own life right now. Like you don't have time to be fixing stuff around my house. Like your life needs fixing. And so, you know what I mean? Like it seems good intention, but it makes me wonder, like, we need to become aware, like when I offer help, it's because I would like that in return as well. But other people can do the same thing. They can offer help and be helpful. But to me, I need to see that their cup is full if they're going to help me, because otherwise they need to be focused on themselves. And that's what I've learned as well. So I hope that's good. A good start to like recognizing safe and unsafe people, that it's not always just like the people who are aggressive and abusive in manner like that. It can be people who come off really friendly and they're offering things that they don't have to give of themselves. And then because it can be that they're looking for things from you, and that's very opportunist, no matter how friendly they are. Now here's the thing too, remember, the friendlier the person, for me, in my experience, the friendlier, the smoother. I compare these people to like, I love McDonald's ice cream caramel sundaes. And whenever I would get them, I get the caramel on the top and the bottom because I love that caramel, right? And then I also love coffee. I used to love, dark roast, double. And because it was comfort in a cup. And like these people are comfort in a cup. Beware of something that feels comfortable in a cup. What that means is their language is too smooth. Their words are rehearsed. They're very like a politician. Think of a politician. If they're feeling political vibes, if they're friends for everybody, if they're friends with everybody, that's a problem. I know people are going to wonder about that. But the thing is, like, when you are speaking your truth and you're authentic, it makes sense that you're not going to please everybody because you're not a people pleaser, and you're also not going to get along with everybody. And you're going to have haters because haters hate being held accountable. So if you're not holding people accountable and you don't have haters, you have some growing room, okay? Because you need to learn how to stick up for yourself, and people like will understand. Like if you want to have a boundary with me, I'm going to understand that because I have my own boundaries. Haters don't like boundaries. They want to have total access because they're opportunistic and they want their way, which is very toddler-like. And that's unsafe as an adult. When you have, when you have a toddler mentality in an adult body, that is dangerous. That is so unsafe, right? Because they have nothing to lose. Think of a toddler in a temper tantrum. When they flop down on the floor, when they start throwing shit, like you've seen the tantrums, they don't care. They're only in this like blinders, like I want what I want when I want it. Wham, right? They're not thinking like, is this a healthy way to behave? Like, am I in the right? Um, is there a different way to do this to achieve like something for both of us? Like there's no thinking. It's just pure emotion, and which is interesting because these people will like they'll try to emotionally abuse you, but they'll use their emotions to abuse you as well. And that's where the tears come in. Tears are a human factor, but when people use them in order to get their way, this is why, this thing going on with the gender wars right now, while I can see aspects of certain things being definitely like abusive and one-sided, I don't know that people have met their fair share of female narcissists yet, because I don't like, I guess there are different layers to things like the patriarch and the matriarch versus, and then, but there's also like the narcissist and the empath. And so a lot of people associate male narcissists because of the patriarch. But what you don't understand is there's the other side of things, is where there are certain women who, because they don't know how to make money for themselves, or they don't want to, or they're just emotionally unhinged, like they tend to connect to men too for toxic reasons. So it's not just like men looking for women for the wrong reasons. There's women looking for men for the wrong reasons. And so, yeah, pay attention to that. That's all I got for now. Hopefully that helps. If I come up with more, I'll make another video, but hopefully that helps on like recognizing. So it's not so much about labeling like that's a narcissist, because like I said, if you go that way, you can get a little bit sticky in the way that like, well, they go to a therapist and get their certificate saying like, I'm not a narcissist. Like what it can be for me, the narcissist is the one who never wants to grow, be accountable, or become responsible. Like they can have responsibilities, but the responsibilities usually benefit them. When they have a house, it's so they can be in player mode. It's not to raise a family in it. Or the house is to show off and be of status. It's not like I want to create a safe place for my family. That's not what it's about. They're very selfish. It's all about, so when you see that's the confusing part, because like I'm in a mode where I don't have time for anybody, and I'm focused on me because I'm healing and recovering. And so people understand, like when I've had my kids, there are times when they don't have time for me either, and I understand that. I'm not freaking out. I'm not one of those like bubble parents. Like I used to be more micromanaging. I also understand how important it is for your kids to struggle and be challenged in order to expand and grow, right? So like if everything's given to a child, that's not healthy. So it makes sense that you need to give your kids space in order to flex their muscles in the way, like to grow, like flex their wings or stretch their wings, whatever. So yeah, I just think it's important to pay attention to how people are responding when you speak up for yourself and try to be authentic and vulnerable, but also bring your boundaries, and watch for that defensive chaos and control and confusion, and emotionally like a tornado, like they're going to use their tears to get their way, or to create a diversion so they get their way. I'm trying to think what else did I have there? They're going to try and make you feel small and insecure and doubt yourself. So they're going to try to create some sort of shock for you to where you're like, whoa, what's going on? And you're up in your head. They want you up in your head so you're not in your action of your body. I think I'm going to stop there. Hopefully that helps. If I missed something, let me know. This is a community I'm trying to create. Like we all have different experiences, but a lot of my experiences are very similar in pattern. But definitely, if you have anything to add it in the comments. And if there's something I've missed or you have more questions, definitely put it in there. I'm going to be adding my email if you want to schedule a one-on-one coaching session. If you need help with some of this stuff, it's $200 for an hour. And you can schedule that with through my email. And or you can just you know what, I did all of this through self-healing, so you can also just like and subscribe and do it for free and follow along with me as I, you know, guide you through it. What I am going to be setting up, I think, is a beginning to the end, and I also want to do like a video about my grieving process and how I work through that, because there's a lot I had to put out here. So it would be, if you're still struggling with this, it's beneficial. Sign up, it's free. And sometimes it's nice just to have a confirmation, or just have someone else that's been through what you've been through, you know, kind of saying like, this is what I experienced. You're like, me too. That's what I experienced, me too. So if that's all it is, and that can be helpful, getting that validation from someone who's experienced what you've experienced. So thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Take care.